What's happening, everyone? Welcome to GBALL Vision. I hope you are doing fantastic today. We have a special little comparison video to do for you guys. I know a lot of people have been asking about the CJRB Wharncliffe Pyrite. A lot of people have been asking about the Civivi Qubit, and I figured we would come to an answer today as to which one I would pick over the other and possibly why. So let's start it off with the CJRB Pyrite Wharncliffe edition. Now you're getting CJRB and Artisan's proprietary ARPM9 powder steel. You have this nice coated Wharncliffe blade. You have the pill-shaped hole for deployment. You can thumb flick it out, reverse flick it out, slow roll it out, use the button to disengage it as well. Then you have these very well finished steel DLC coated handles. I did throw a titanium pocket clip on this guy, but it is exceptionally well finished. Coming in at $60, you have these crazy deep triangular milling channels done on both sides of the scales, giving this a pretty lightweight and pretty good balance as well. The steel handles are very well finished. If you didn't know that they were steel, if somebody didn't tell you, you might end up thinking that they was titanium. They are a little bit heavy to maybe be considered titanium, but the way they are milled out, they are pretty light in my opinion. It's really not heavy at all. So I think it could be mistaken for titanium for sure. Coming in at 60 bucks, I think this is a phenomenal value. And we have the Civivi Qubit, which is their newest rendition button lock. This has a coated leaf-shaped 14C28N blade here. You have dual thumb studs for your deployment options, and you have a cap lifter here as well. The button has been recessed as it was on the CJRB Pyrite. You do have aluminum scales on the Qubit. I don't believe, yeah, there is no internal milling. The balance is right about there. It's actually very reminiscent of where the pyrite is. It's a little low of where typically you want them about here, just below the pivot. So it's pretty good, actually, though. That's still fairly good. A little butt heavy, which is the same way with the Wharny Pyrite. Now, a lot of people have been interested in these two knives, and I started thinking about it, and I said, I have these two knives. Which one would I take and why? And first, I thought to myself, man, 14C28N, that kind of would take the cake for me, right? And I started to think about it, and I was thinking, well, the Qubit is $66. The Pyrite is $60. 14C28N versus ARPM9, steel versus aluminum. They are both button locks. One has studs, one has a hole. They both have a steel rollover clip. Now, this one does have the titanium one, if you can remember. You do have left or right hand carry on both of them, but CJRB did a surface mounted clip, so that way you didn't have this ugly pocket here, and they didn't do a filler tab, which is very odd. I don't know why they didn't just throw a black aluminum filler tab in there to kind of round out the aesthetic of it, but what do I know? So I started thinking about it, and I was leaning towards the Qubit. And I've had the Pyrite Wharny for quite a bit longer than the Qubit, and I've had the drop point Pyrite a lot longer than both of these, and it's been a huge favorite of mine for months at this point. Then I started thinking about it, well, I can't just go blade steel over all else, right? And then I started thinking, well, which design do I like better? Which one do I like better in hand as far as ergos? Which one's more comfortable? Which design do I like better? Which blade shape do I like better? All those sort of things started coming into play, and I love aluminum. And to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of steel handles up until very recently. This year, around this year, when this year started, I kind of started to, it was steel frame locks that I wasn't that into, but the way that they are able to mill out the steel handles, the way they're able to finish these, this is so well finished. I'm telling you, it's kind of hard to discern. Although I know it's steel, it's hard to discern over titanium because it's so well finished that it almost feels like it's titanium. And the thing about steel is, everyone knows, it is ultra tough stuff. Now, aluminum is no slacker either, but aluminum is not as tough as steel. Now, aluminum is lighter than steel, but I would say I like a little bit more weight with my knife. You do have a little bit of a choke up spot here on the Wharncliffe. You do have a little choke up spot here on the Qubit as well. And don't get me wrong, I love this thin, slicey, leaf-shaped blade. I do like the action on the Qubit, but I'm thinking that I would ultimately take the Pyrite Wharny for 60 bucks over the Qubit, even in the ARPM9 steel. Now I have tons of knives in 14C, a literal ton, but I also have a bunch of ARPM9 CJRBs and artisans, and ARPM9 has never let me down. It holds an edge well. It's very tough stuff. I've never had any corrosion issues, whether it was coated or uncoated. Never had any issues with it. And there's something about this pyrite, and it's not just me. A lot of people are a huge fan of this pyrite. It's nice and thin, comes down very thin, as well does the Qubit. This is very thin and comes down very thin. I do love that leaf-shaped blade, but over the last year or two, I've become a huge fan of Wharncliffe blades, sheep's foot blades. I love them. And I've always been into button locks from the time that I got my first one. I really like button locks. It's not my favorite locking mechanism, but they are very unique. You know, growing up with knives and what I had back then compared to now, it is a complete 180. It's totally different than when I was growing up and in high school. There was no such thing. So it's just intriguing to me that, you know, you can unlock it with a button. I think it's very cool. But the steel handle that has excellent milling done in it. I love the aesthetic of the pyrite when it's closed and when it's opened. The Qubit is very well done open, but I cannot stand the way it looks when it's closed. Now, when it is open, I really like the look of it, but I have no idea why they finished it the way they did. They left out the filler tab, which should have never happened, in my opinion. I didn't notice that when I bought it or before I bought it. It's kind of a big letdown. It's just like they forgot about putting a filler tab, or they forgot about filler tabs. Otherwise, they should have just done a flush mounted clip like CJRB did, and you would have avoided that whole problem. You just countersink the screws and you're good to go. Plenty of clearance. You know, and don't get me wrong, I like flush mounted clips and screws, but you got to have a filler tab if you're going to do left and right. That's just my opinion. Lefties probably don't care because they'll be switching it to this side. But then on this side, you have this big pocket anyway. So it's kind of, I don't know, I just don't get it. And it wouldn't have cost but 20 cents to throw, you know, a aluminum filler tab that you mill out anyway for the pocket clip. So ultimately, I think I would take the Pyrite Wharny over the Qubit. I do love 14C28N, but at the end of the day, I think for an EDC, for a work knife, I'm going to take the Wharny Pyrite over the Qubit by just the closest of margins. Maybe we'll do a battle with these two. This was just a quick comparison of the two and just what I think that I would take. Now, the battle is kind of categorized, and, you know, I try to take myself out of it as much as possible and then declare a winner. But this is more of a personal choice, and, you know, it's a little sleeker. It's built a little tougher, in my opinion. You have a thinner width here on both. So just the sleeker body style. You have less width all the way around, better blade shape. The steel is very, very good in my opinion. I'm taking the Wharncliffe. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I know 14C is excellent, but I'm taking the Wharny Pyrite. Let me know what you have to say down in the comments. I would love to hear it. If you are here and you are new and you are not subscribed, click that GBALL Vision logo. I would love to have you here. If you want to watch some more content, click here or here. Otherwise, guys, I will catch you on the next one.